These 5 career hacks changed my life and tripled my income. And I'm gonna show you exactly how I did it. That's right, I've actually tripled my income because of things that I figured out, and I'm gonna share them with you in this video. So back in spring of 2020, I hit a low point. You see, I was making a decent income, I had great benefits, and I had a job that I thought was pretty stable. But with one phone call, all of that came crashing down. And I literally just relocated my family to Tennessee. In fact, I still had the U-Haul truck parked in front of my house when I got the notice that I was gonna get laid off. And in order to convince my wife to move, I had promised her a better life. We were gonna be able to save some money, we were gonna build a house, and we were gonna expand our family. So here I am pacing back and forth in my office, knowing that I had to tell my wife. And of course, that conversation is never easy, and then all the while, I'm still processing what had happened to me. However, I'm extremely fortunate because she has my back, and I could have never done what I did without her. So I knew I needed to get back on my feet as quickly as possible in one of the worst job-seeking markets in the last decade. Easier said than done when literally nobody was hiring. So I know a lot of people who watch this channel are in the same boat. They've gone through the same things that I went through back in that era. During this time, I had to completely recalibrate, do a ton of soul searching, and figure out how I was gonna dust myself off and deliver what I promised to my wife to begin with. And that's where I came up with this strategy, these career hacks that allowed me to change our lives so completely and fully that looking back now, I can honestly and fully say getting laid off was the single best thing that has ever happened to me. So I'm gonna share with you the 5 career hacks that I learned during this period of time that allowed me to triple my income. So the very first thing that I realized is that I had to get a resume together. And like a lot of you, I had a resume that was 5 years old that was sitting on a thumb drive somewhere that I had to dust off. So I start updating, and I should say Frankensteining this resume because that's essentially what I was doing. I was just adding on new stuff to the old resume, and it just kept on getting more and more bloated. So here I am shooting off this Frankenstein resume to the precious few jobs that were available. And guess what happened after I did that? Absolutely nothing. I didn't get a single phone call back, and I realized that I had to change my strategy. And that's when it dawned on me, as a recruiter, I knew better than this. I knew exactly what kind of resumes grabbed my attention when I was doing the recruiting. So I had to adjust my strategy and think like a recruiter when I was submitting my resume. So back to the drawing board, I trashed that resume and I start to work on a new one. And that's the genesis of the template that I came up with that I use in Resume Rocketfuel. And the resumes that used to catch my attention were clean, concise, and meticulously honed for the type of job that I was recruiting for. Those were the resumes that got me to stop, take a closer look, and pick up a phone for that first round interview. So I set out to build my own resume in a similar fashion, using all of these best practices that worked on me. Response rates on my resume submissions went from about 5% all the way up to about 70%. So I figured out a system that was pretty accurate in order to get me the best chance at getting that recruiter to call me back. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say that my resume got me the interview each and every time because that simply isn't true. But I knew if I spent the time customizing it and applying all the best practices, that I would give myself a very good chance at getting a phone call back for that first round interview. And guess what? It actually worked. The second thing that I learned was the importance of my networks. I admittedly had neglected my networks because I was just working a job and not really ever thinking about it. And when the day came that I lost my job and I was laid off, I suddenly realized I didn't have a very strong network to lean on. And when I did reach out to some of my former coworkers and colleagues, all I got in return was that's too bad, we're sorry to hear that, good luck with your job search. So I knew that kind of networking was not what I could rely on to land a better job opportunity. So I set out on a quest to figure out how to connect with the right people. And I'm thinking back to my time as a recruiter. Some of the highest quality jobs that I recruited for were actually filled by people in internal networks, because my hiring managers would often come to me with a candidate already pre-selected. They'd say, take a look at this candidate and move them through the interviewing process. We're gonna probably make an offer on them. And the great thing about it was the candidate was usually perfectly aligned to the role, and I didn't have to do that much recruiting. They could skip right to the front of the line, and they usually got a very solid offer, and the process was really quick. A recruiter's dream. So I knew that there had to be a way that I could repeat that same process for myself, and I figured it out. But I realized that I couldn't rely on my existing networks, and I didn't always have friends on the inside of the companies that I was targeting. So I had to figure out a way around that and get access to these networks without that insider's edge. So I studied what makes hiring managers tick, how they assess candidates, and where they find people. And I figured out a system that would help me skip the recruiter altogether and go right to the hiring manager. So essentially, I created my own insider's edge. And that paid dividends because I started getting interviews because of my insider networking. The next hack that I discovered was establishing myself as an expert in my field. And I did so by consistently posting on LinkedIn, showing that I could add value, created a YouTube channel, and other ways to outreach to employers to show them I actually knew what I was talking about. And the thing that I discovered about branding myself as an expert is recruiters actually started to come and find me instead. So it made it a lot easier to get those job opportunities when I didn't have to convince a recruiter to notice me in an ATS system, because they were coming right into my inbox and inviting me to interview. And the next hack that I learned is that I learned to lean upward. And what I mean by that is I started to brand myself with the type of roles that I wanted to be associated with. I wanted to continue to move my career upward, and it dawned on me that my resume alone oftentimes was not enough to move the needle on my upward mobility. So I figured out how to brand myself and sell my skills so that I could up level my career and move into the types of roles that were more appropriate for my experience level. And learning to lean upward was one of the most powerful things that I did in my career search, because it unlocked an entirely new class of jobs. And as a result, I was able to land successive roles with up to 70% pay increases from the time I was laid off to begin with. Taking it a step further, and this is the one that has changed my life the most drastically, is building powerful side income streams. And one could argue this is actually not a side income stream for me anymore. I made the most of my time being unemployed and started a business. My labor of love, my fourth baby, a Life After Layoff. This Life After Layoff channel is just one component of what I decided to create in making lemonade out of lemons, and built a series of highly valuable income streams, because I knew that I wanted to be free of the corporate shackles of ever having a company control my destiny ever again. So now I work a corporate job, not because I need to, but because I want to. And there's something very liberating about that. And through my journey, I figured out how to monetize my brand in multiple ways. I've got career coaching, resume services, I've got courses, I've got affiliate marketing, brand sponsorships, and other things. And as a result, I've been able to triple my income since the time I was laid off in May of 2020. This has absolutely been life-changing for me and my family, and I'm actually here to tell you that you can do the same thing if you want to yourself. If you're listening to this video and you're saying, hey, I'm not really sure where to start, that's actually all the stuff that I specialize in, and I do a lot of knowledge transfer. So I've got the website, lifeafterlayoff.com, you should go check that out. I also offer some of those courses. I teach you exactly how I wrote my own resume through Resume Rocketfuel. So if you want to duplicate that, go and check that course out. And I also teach you about networking and how to build those powerful networks and all the insider secrets through unlocking LinkedIn. And then of course, once you get your foot in the door, you need to get through the interviews, and that's where the ultimate job seeker bootcamp comes in. It's actually interview training that will teach you how to get to the end of the interviews and ultimately land your dream job. And if you're somebody that's saying, hey, I would love to do some side hustles, but I don't know where to start, consider doing one of my private one-on-one coaching sessions, because I love helping brainstorm ideas that can help you get on the same path to success. So that's my story. Those are my 5 hacks. Hopefully you found some value in this video. If you're interested in more content just like this, make sure you give me a thumbs up, and sure would appreciate a subscribe so that you don't miss any future posts. Happy job hunting, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.